Hello, everyone. This is Willie Summit III, founder of RightTouch Solutions. Welcome back to the RightTouch Rundown, your weekly dose of operational strategy and nonprofit clarity. We are in part three of our four-part series on internal communications and organizational clarity. We are flying through this thing, friends. So before we jump in, let me catch up our friends who are on vacation. They just got back. In part one, we talked about why internal communications is strategy and not just miscellaneous admin I'm going to get to. We broke down why misalignment starts when communication isn't intentional and how to create that rhythm. Remember that beat we were talking about the swimmers that keeps everyone on the same page. In part two, we discussed documentation. That hard truth around if it's not written, it does not exist. We covered why relying on your memory causes confusion because you're confused, and that key documents every organization should have. Feel free to take a moment to go check those out if you haven't already. They really build the foundation for today's episode. Now, remember, most missions do not fail from lack of passion. Y'all have too much passion, which is a good thing for community work. But they stall because of confusion, misalignment, power struggles, and nobody wants to name it. So I'm going to name it. Now, today's episode may step on some toes, so put your shoes on. But it needs to be said. Your board and staff need also to stop stepping on each other's toes. So everybody get off everybody's toes and let's walk your own path. Too many organizations are stuck because no one really knows who's supposed to do what. The board is approving things that should be operational. Staff are waiting on permission for things they've already authorized to handle. And founders, y'all are just doing it all and burning up and burning out in the process. Really, why does this matter? Oh, thank you so much for asking. It matters because role confusion leads to resentment. People think others are not doing their part, but the truth is, nobody ever defined what their part was. So everyone is just doing. We just do it. You have board members calling vendors directly or confirming bookings without even telling the staff who was already doing it, just trying to move things along. While the program team is just left scrambling, trying to figure out what they agreed to, who signed off on it. Was that even in the budget? Heck, what is the budget? So now you have blindsided your staff and a board that feels unappreciated because I just helped y'all. Why y'all not appreciating it? We didn't want your help. This is the incorrect use of do it, lady. So just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be doing it, especially when roles aren't defined. Board interference can cause people to feel mistrusted. Oh, let me rephrase that. Board interference can feel like mistrust. There we go. That's better. Even when it's well intentioned, overreach can undermine staff confidence and autonomy. The board requests to review and approve social media posts. That seems real simple on the surface, but if we think about who's actually doing it, the comms team, do they now feel micromanaged or second guess for every caption they do because they've been doing it and all of a sudden the board wants to get involved? Have you had that conversation? That's where the mistrust is, again, because you haven't communicated. Let's see here. Another one is staff silence can feel like apathy. When staff aren't looped in or heard at a strategic level, they disengage, even if they're still showing up. They may be there, but they're not going to listen to me anyway, so I'm just going to be here to tell them what to do. You get an ED that presents a new outreach program, and no one from the board offers feedback because they didn't understand it or they weren't looped in earlier. So again, they don't even know what's going on. They're just here. So now you have executive director thinking no one really cares. I'm just doing this all myself. They care, but you forgot to loop them in earlier. I have a good friend who will sit around and we're having a good time talking or reading our books, and then all of a sudden they'll start talking, and I have to say, "Hey, I didn't get included in the first part of the conversations. I don't know what you're talking about. I missed the first couple episodes. Could you give me a recap?" Somebody pushed the skip intro on my Netflix. Make sure that your whole vision is being communicated. We often have inner monologues that we don't put out there. So that why, that purpose is not out there. So you can't say nobody cares. They just don't know. They want to be there. They want to be there to care. They're clearly there in the meeting. Help them understand, because with clarity there is confidence, but with confusion there is conflict. So let's break down board versus staff. Let us be clear. The board governs. The staff, volunteers, program teams manage. Board, you have the vision, fiduciary oversight, policy approval, that C-suite kind of accountability. When we're moving to our staff piece, our volunteers, our everydays, they are dealing with the programs. They're doing the day-to-day operation, the decision makings of the day-to-day, not the decisions of the overall. And then that volunteer management. Now, for my nonprofits and my business owners, small business owners, this is where it does get tricky, because board members and business owners should always be willing to roll them sleeves up and get in and get that work done. So sometimes the lines blur. How do we keep those lines clear when it's necessary? I know this is going to be our second episode of using cliche terms. We're going to use them for our benefit. We're going to think of it as wearing hats. When you're reviewing those financials, you have your governance hat on. When you're serving punch at the gala, checking in guests and waving and shaking hands, that's your volunteer hat. So you're not going to be talking about governance. We're here to check you and make you feel welcome. You want some punch? Let me get you some punch, baby. When you're mentoring a student or recruiting sponsors or onboarding a new board member, that's their community engagement piece. That's that volunteer management piece. So doing those pieces, you're also not talking about governance. You're not serving them anything, because you're talking about what you're there for, the mentoring piece, or you're talking about the recruiting piece. And then when you're speaking to clients or potential sponsors, that's your organizational development hat. So that one actually has many pieces of it. So you do want them to feel welcome, you want them to be engaged, but you also want to make sure that you're only talking about what a sponsor should know at that point, not something that's really coming up further on or hasn't been approved by the board. As much as it may feel like that'll rope them in, then you're building mistrust. If you do that and don't tell somebody else or the rest of the board, they overhear it. Like, I don't know we were releasing that information yet. What's going on? So try to remember it as hats. And the key is to know which hat are you wearing. It takes practice. You're going to mess up. That's fine. We all mess up. But we can get better with practice. Perfect practice. Intentional practice. Just practicing something over and over does not make you better at it, because you may be practicing wrong. So you'll be the best person at doing things incorrectly. Intentional practice and feedback. You want to know how to not switch them mid-section, mid-conversation, or to switch them mid-person. So a conversation may be happening here. You're welcoming, you're shaking hands, and then one of your main sponsors come in. You have to switch over real quick and talk to them. A volunteer needs help. You got to switch over, but you have to make sure that only that person sees the hat that's beneficial to them. Your extra that you signed up for, don't put that on nobody else. Because when those hats get mixed up, so does accountability. They're wondering, who am I talking to? Maybe you let something go that you shouldn't have to that one person. Now they're taking it on. So be careful. Again, it takes intentional practice, but soon you'll have it down to a perfect science. Especially, as I said, when you have those moments or just one event where you're wearing 3 to 5 hats, depending on which part of the room you're at. So make time, be intentional. Think about your wording. Think about what you're communicating, even with what you're wearing, how you're moving your hands around, how you're looking across the room. We did a table session a couple of days ago. We're talking to the table. And I said no asides. And I'm quick for a quick aside. I like to lean over and talk to somebody with the side of my mouth. But sometimes make sure you talk to the whole room. So be mindful of how you're communicating. 3 tips to stay in your lane and work as a team. Number 1, we're going to use role clarity documents. We talked about Racy and Rapid last episode. We're going to create simple outlines of board versus staff responsibilities and then revisit it, whether it be annually, whether it be quarterly. This is not the moment to micromanage, but this is to prevent turf wars and confusion. I always tell you to revisit your documents annually or quarterly. I will always say that because your org evolves. And you know I want you all to evolve and grow. And when you evolve and grow, so should your documentation. So should the way your organization is talked about. I love a good example. So let's see. A board member attends a community event and tells a volunteer to change the check-in process on the fly because it just works for them. Oh, this will work a little bit better. Go ahead and do it this way. You did not loop in the staff member or the volunteer that you put over that, who created that program, who's been doing it since inception of planning. So now that staff walks up and says, what is happening here? They say, board member told me to do it this way. So that volunteer is confused. The staff member is livid, and the board member has walked away thinking they have done it. I have helped them. I'm doing all I can with my multiple hats, and I'm killing the game. The solution to fix that is a simple role clarity chart. It just makes it clear. A simple line that says, at events, staff leads logistics. Board members support and engage, but do not direct staff or volunteers. Very simple. I've been on many projects where I've had to tell partners, you do not have a piece of this. You talk to me, and I will talk to the staff. But your piece is only advisory, but you are not to be in the day-to-day of a project, because we have to make sure we're all being, again, in our lanes. Number 2, normalize strategic collaboration. When people hear strategic in a sentence that goes with meeting behind it, you automatically pull yourself out of it if you're not a board member, if you're not the owner or a C-suite person. Let's change that narrative. Invite your staff and your volunteers to speak during board meetings, to speak during planning sessions. Encourage board members to ask questions, not assume what support staff actually needs. Alignment isn't just about roles, it's about respect. Invite that program leader, that volunteer who's on the ground, that one that volunteers all the time. Invite them to share outcomes of what they see when they go into these events, or what their thoughts about how can we make things better, or what should we stop doing. Invite them to a board meeting to share why they keep volunteering, and then allow them to stay for you can talk about, for they can see the whys. This is not a space to quiz or grill these people, but to listen and offer any needed, hear me when I say needed, insight. There are many of us in this space who love to give out ideas and mentor. I want to give, I want to give, I want to give. How about you just sit down and listen to those volunteers? Encourage board members to ask those what support do you need questions instead of offering those solutions, because they may not fit. Build that conversation with people who are doing it every day. They don't want to be in the board meetings all the time, trust me. I've invited them. But they do love coming from time to time, especially when you're talking about an event, because they do have questions. Why do we do this way? And it may be an actual reason that doesn't flow down because they're not in those board meetings. This is an opportunity to share the why. Respect builds when communication flows both ways. You'll understand their purpose, their why, while they're doing it, and then they'll understand why things are certain in place, why the event even exists, why we do it this way. And while that conversation happens, there will be room for growth on both sides, on maybe changing the process, maybe enhancing, or maybe adding more visual metrics. Have those conversations about strategy with more than your board. Moving number 3, this is our final one, I promise. We're going to address founders syndrome early. So if you are a founder still doing everything, know that I see you, Willie Sublett loves you, and I am proud of you. But most importantly, I want you to stop it. I want you to stop it right now. And I want you to know that delegation is not abandonment. Let your team do their jobs. Let your board do theirs. You have work to do. The mission will grow even if you're the only one holding up. That's a lie. The mission will not grow if you're the only one holding it up. So if you've told yourself, in order for this thing to move and groove and go and move and evaluate and grow and elevate, I have to be here. I have to make sure I have to touch. I have to touch. I want to tell you again, the mission, I'm going to get close to the camera so you can hear me. The mission will not grow if you're the only one holding it up. You're the founder, and you're still approving every flyer, signing every check, managing every volunteer. That is not leadership. And whoever told you a lie. And they can fight me about it. But baby, that is control. That is actual control. Empower your team. Let your board leaders govern, and your mission will outgrow your calendar. That is leadership. Allowing other people to grow is leadership. All right, let me get out of here before y'all get mad at me. Final thoughts on this. Role clarity doesn't restrict your teams, whether it's your board team, your staff team, your volunteers, your front desk clerks. Role clarity empowers them. When everyone knows what lane they're in, the respect people in those other lanes, you reduce that friction and you increase that flow. If you're way over here in the right lane and you have an exit that's coming up and you got to go all the way over, all you have to do is piss off 13 people because you just got in their way to get where you're supposed to be. And everyone, why were you even over there? That ain't your business. Specialize in minding your business. Get in your lane, trust the people in their lanes, and let's move together in a beautiful flow. So whether you're the board chair, the program leader, the volunteer, registration clerk, professional clothes closet volunteer, or you're the founder wearing 12 to 13 hats, take time and clarify your roles. It can be a simple document. You know how I feel about spending too much time on cosmetics. Do that later. Get on Fiverr, have somebody else do that. Work on what the wording should be, because overlap will lead to overload. And we all know that overload leads to walking out. And we don't want that. We don't want that. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone, to the RightTouch Rundown. We did it, part 3. If this helped you or your leadership team, like that video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone navigating growth. Don't you gatekeep. And if you need help clarifying your board roles, untangling operational confusion, you already know where to go. Come see me at RightTouchSolutions.com. And as always, I want you to remember and keep it as a mantra. Mission moves best with structure. I will see you in part 4, everybody. Have a great day.